Shalom and welcome everyone to the ICEJ webinar series. I'm David Parsons, Vice President and Senior Spokesman for the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem. We're so glad that you've joined us for today's webinar. We want to give a war update. We're now over 7 months into this multi-front war, primarily in Gaza, but also in Lebanon and in Judea and Samaria. And we're bringing back a guest we've had several times in recent years, but only once since this war started on October 7, General Amir Avivi. He has 35 years experience in the IDF as a commander of ground forces, armored corps, other positions, and wound up as the deputy comptroller. That's in the Chief of Staff's office, overseeing all the military and their fitness, readiness, spending, all of those. So he knows the IDF in and out, and also now the founder and chairman of the Israel Defense and Security Forum. General Avivi, good to see you.
Great.
Yes.
Good to be here. Thank you, David.
Yes, bless you. And look, we had you on a few weeks after October 7, so there's a lot to catch up on. And we were down there on October 5th, just 2 days before. You spoke to a group of 700 Christians we had down there on a solidarity rally, and a lot has happened since then, my friend.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big war. I would say almost biblical.
Yeah, oh my. I know you've been busy with the Israel Defense and Security Forum and trying to shape Israel's response. What is your message to the leaders of Israel, and how is that coming across?
Well, from day one, when the government set very clear goals to the war to destroy Hamas, a governmental and military entity, and bring back all the hostages and create a reality where there cannot be again a terror army in Gaza. I said the first day that what needs to be done is to conquer all of Gaza. You cannot bring down Hamas without taking over the whole Gaza Strip. I must say that, when I talked about it on TV, the first day, even the first months, people were like, what are you talking about? Are we supposed to really go inside and conquer everything? And say, yes, that's exactly what we're supposed to do. And indeed, this is what's happening. Maybe not at the pace we want it to happen, as fast as we want it to happen. But basically, since then, the IDF launched a big ground incursion in the north of Gaza, destroying the northern Gaza brigade and battalions. We knew that the remaining terrorists will disperse around the northern part, and we try to regroup. And this is what we are seeing now. We've seen terrorists regrouping in Shifa Hospital. We've seen them regrouping in Zaytun and in Jibalia. And this is why we see raids of the IDF to deal with them. We started in the north with something like 10,000 terrorists. Now the IDF estimates that there are 500 remained. This is in the northern part of Gaza. So I saw this week, like the Israeli society was very baffled. And what's going on? What did we achieve if they're coming back? No, it's not the same. I mean, yes, there is still fighting, but the number of terrorists is diminishing all the time. This is in the north. And then the IDF launched a ground incursion into the central camps in Khan Yunis, destroying many of the capabilities. And the Hamas, as the IDF moved forward, Hamas retreated with the leadership, with the hostages, into Rafah. And this is why Rafah has become the key for winning the war. All the leadership of Hamas, the hostages, the remaining battalions, the Rafah brigade, and the ability to close the Egyptian border in a way that won't enable building up again a terror army. This is all in Rafah. This is why we are pushing strongly the Prime Minister to take a decision to launched this ground incursion into Rafah and destroyed the leadership of Hamas and reach our hostages. The key to winning the war is in Rafah.
Yeah, it seems like it's got a lot of people up in arms, but do you think Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, is still there? There are reports he's slipped back into Khan Yunis. And this is the problem, that Israel takes a territory and then withdraws, and then you have to go fight and regain it. But you say it's a lot easier the second time?
Yeah, I mean, once you have the situation in Khan Yunis is the same as in the north. The IDF at this stage enjoys freedom of movement. If I was Sinwar, I wouldn't go to Khan Yunis because the chances that the IDF will be able to go in fast and surround him are very high. It seems to me more reasonable that he will be in Rafah, that is very, very fortified and also very close to the tunnel connecting Rafah on the Gazan side to the Sinai Peninsula to Egypt, to keep, maybe the chance to escape to Egypt, to the Sinai Peninsula, and from there maybe to Iran. So no, I don't think that it makes sense that he would go to Khan Yunis.
Yeah. What is Israel? I mean, Egypt seems very, very upset about Israel going in there. Of course, it means a lot more Israeli troops right along the border, which the Camp David Accords, the peace treaty, doesn't allow that. But is the IDF going to find a lot of smuggling tunnels there that show Egypt hasn't been doing their job?
Yeah, this is exactly why they're so upset. They know that when the IDF will conquer Rafah, we'll find dozens of huge tunnels connecting between Egypt to Gaza. This is how Hamas was able to build itself dramatically. And the Egyptians, they let it happen. The people are paid, they are making a lot of money. It's an enterprise of billions. And obviously, Egypt is not comfortable with, this being exposed. So, they are sending messages. We're not endangering any serious Egyptian interests in the operation in Gaza. But we see Egypt acting very strongly. The Egyptian society, big part of it is Muslim Brotherhood. They don't like Israel. They put a lot of pressure on the leadership of Egypt to be against Israel. And on one hand, the Egyptians coordinate with us. We talk to them. On the other hand, they send the rhetorics are terrible and are done to appease, their own society, 100 million people.
And you think there are a lot of hostages now in Rafah? That's where most of them are?
I think that almost all the hostages are in Rafah. And we have to understand Hamas' strategy. Hamas knows they cannot win on the battleground. They know that everywhere the IDF will go, they will be destroyed. And they say all we need to do is survive, stop the war, and when we survive, we'll rebuild ourselves again, and we'll emerge victorious. How can they survive? They depend on two things. One, international pressure. They believe that enough international pressure will stop Israel, and then they will win the war. And, it's working not bad for them. I mean, you see what kind of international pressure the US is putting on us to stop the war, to lose the war, actually. We see how difficult it is even for the Minister of Defense, the Chief of Staff, to deal with this pressure. And the other thing that they're counting on is elections in Israel. They believe that if the Israeli society goes to elections, if there is again, demonstrations and a whole turmoil inside Israel, if we go to elections, we'll stop the war. So when you understand what they want, you can understand why they're not releasing hostages. because if they release hostages, then there won't be demonstrations. It means, the government did everything it could to bring back hostages. If the women and the elderly and the sick and the baby are released, the chances of elections in Israel will be low. So they don't have any interest to release hostages. It's not about the government. It's not about Israel. It's about them. 3 months we have been negotiating. No matter what we offer them, they don't want to bring the hostages. So the only way to get Sinwar to release hostages is military pressure, is creating a reality that he's in an existential threat. And once he's threatened existentially, then he needs to decide his life or negotiating a deal, maybe even negotiating a deal that will go out to the second and we'll get the hostages back. So this is really the options we have. And unfortunately, I think that many people don't get it. They blame the government or the army for not wanting to bring the hostages. What I say is, go into Rafah and finish the job. Go into Rafah and bring our hostages and also destroy Hamas. Everything depends on this ground incursion into Rafah.
It seems like Hamas actually wanted this, that they've been waiting for a while. They've had time to plan, and then they attacked. They did the mortar attack on the Israeli troops that were waiting near the Keren Shalom crossing, and what was it? 4 soldiers died, 10 others injured. It was a deliberate attack from Rafah on the IDF that tried to, they wanted to provoke this incursion into Rafah.
Yeah, it might be, but they also, they want to create despair, that the people will be desperate, that they will see that this is not going anywhere, and more soldiers are getting killed and so on. It's a fight of will. Who has more will? And we have to make sure that our will is stronger, that we are resolute, to understand what we are fighting for. Yes, we are paying a price. It's a difficult war, but we can definitely win decisively. But we need leadership. We need our leadership to be united and really focused on winning the war and not on politics and not on all these discussions we see, especially, yesterday.
Yeah. Some are saying it would have been better to go into Rafah at the start of the war in order to cut off any escape route, to control what's coming in a lot better. And it could have been quite easy for the IDF to at least capture the Rafah crossing. It's only a mile from the border. Why did they save it for last?
It's a good question. I'm not sure I have a good answer. I mean, I can understand why at the very beginning they didn't go into Rafah, because most of our divisions were in the north. Israel was worried about a full-scale war with Hezbollah. When we started the ground incursion in Gaza, we started only with 3 divisions. This was enough to take the north. But at a certain point, we saw that there is no big war in Lebanon, and then the army sent more divisions south. And I think that instead of attacking the central camps, we should have attacked simultaneously Khan Yunis and Rafah and cut off everything, and also make sure that they don't smuggle hostages out of Gaza. This is also important. We might find ourselves in suddenly with hostages in Iran. It might be a big problem.
Yeah, we talked before about why Hezbollah did not join the fight, but what you said brings up this question. Some say that the IDF and the military and the government have put too much emphasis on, say, air power, advanced fighter jets and such, and have ignored the ground troops, that there wasn't enough armor for the ground troops to fight on 2 fronts, both in Lebanon and in Gaza at once. Your thoughts? You were in the comptroller's office and sort of had that bird's eye view of the whole military.
Yeah. So in this war, we see 3 main problems. One what the intelligence, especially human intelligence, and the inability of the intelligence to give us the warning, the alert that we are going to war. And the other thing is that the IDF indeed shrinks the amount of ground forces dramatically in the last 20 years, creating a reality where, yes, it's difficult to fight on both fronts. And the third thing that is also really affecting the way the war is handled is munitions. We didn't keep enough munitions, and also we didn't make sure that our industries are able to produce them once you have a war. And this created a reality where Israel became very, very dependent on munitions from the US. This gives the administration leverage to pressure Israel to do things Israel doesn't want to do, like push forward the Palestinian state, which will endanger Israel existentially and will be a price for terror. And these things need to change, but you don't change it in a day. I mean, our industries now are working around the clock to build more and more lines of production of all the kinds of munitions we need. To build something like that can take 2 years. It's not something that happens in a day. So it is proceeding, but it's not proceeding at the pace we need it. And we're still very much reliant on the munitions coming from the US. And we see the administration trying to push its policies by preventing these munitions from arriving to Israel, which is devastating. It's really terrible.
Yeah, I think we're seeing, we already knew it, but it's being really highlighted that the strategy of the enemy, not only Hamas, but the Palestinian Authority, is to impose arms embargoes and to restrict Israel's right to defend itself. But these delays in U.S. military aid, does the Israeli military have good enough relations with the Pentagon that you can get the message to them that you need these certain weapons?
I think the relations are very, very close. There is a close relationship, and we work together very closely with the Pentagon and American Army, but the decision-making is on the political level. This is the administration deciding whether to allow the sending of munitions or not. It's not about the Pentagon.
It's electoral.
And I think that, when you, as you know, and you know it better than anyone, David, when you bless Israel, you'll be blessed. But if you curse Israel, you'll pay heavily for that. And I think that the way the administration is behaving, I believe it will cost them the elections. I don't think that you can treat Israel like that and think that you are going to win elections in the US.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it, but there's been a bit of a slow pace, almost a slow walk of the fighting in Gaza by the IDF. There's reason to be cautious with the tunnel threat and everything, but has that slow pace really hampered and worked against Israel because of the month after month after month and the Palestinian casualties climbing? It seems all the marches, the anti-Semitic marches everywhere, it would have been better to do it a lot faster.
I think that the dilemma was with our ground forces not only are shrinked, but also we have to remember that 80% of our ground forces are reserve. These are people who have jobs, who have families, and they were operating for like 120, 140 days, taken out of their everyday life. And then there needed to be a decision. Are we continuing to use them and keeping the pace of war, or we send them home and rely on the regular army, which is much smaller, and then it will take more time. And this, I believe that if we had huge amount of munitions, probably they would have taken a decision to continue with a lot of forces. But they said, you know, anyway, we and them ready for Lebanon or bring them back to Gaza as they're doing now. So it's all connected. It's all connected. How big is the ground forces, how much munitions, and so on. And yes, it's creating a reality where simply this war is taking more time than it could have taken in another scenario.
It does seem like the IDF has picked up the pace after Ramadan and after Passover. Everyone was hoping for some sort of hostage deal, thinking there might be a truce. It didn't happen. I don't think Sinwar wanted to give Israel a gift over Passover of some hostage releases, but the IDF has picked up the pace in northern Gaza, going into Rafah now.
To me, it was obvious that there is not going to be a hostage deal because of the strategy I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you know, and now we are attacking fiercely, and I think there is a growing understanding that we really need to move forward and destroy Hamas. If not, they'll get organized again and again. They'll recover. They will regroup, and this will cost lives and time. And we have to remember, David, that in all this context we are talking now, we have the North. Israel set a strategy saying we are not going to deal with the North before we win in Gaza. Okay, so get going with Gaza. I mean, we have 80,000 Israelis displaced. They're not in their homes. We need to deal with Hezbollah. We cannot do that without finishing our missions, or our main missions, at least in Gaza. To clean Gaza, it will take years. To destroy Hamas, it can take weeks. If we go into Rafah and finish the job and get control of the Egyptian border.
Yeah, there's a debate and a real division right now between Prime Minister Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant over what's going to happen post-war. Some say that you need to already determine who's going to rule Gaza after the war. Is it going to be Israel, the Palestinian Authority, or whatever? And Netanyahu says, no, you first have to defeat Hamas, because no one wants to take the risk of trying to rule Gaza until Hamas is defeated. Where are you on this?
I think that Netanyahu is right. And I expect the army and the Minister of Defense, instead of dealing with policies, to deal with winning. We need them to be focused on destroying Hamas. We have to understand that when you destroy an entity like Hamas, and when you know you have no partners, because the Palestinian Authority is as terrible as Hamas, it's not a partner. When you have to build a solution from scratch, maybe based on local leadership, on the clans, on the municipalities, this will take time. And therefore, the day after Hamas, there must be at the beginning military control. Israel will have to take responsibility, and we need to, because you cannot bring down Hamas as a governmental entity if you don't control also the civilian side. We need to destroy Hamas militarily, but we also need to take control of the civil side, and especially of the humanitarian aid, instead of just throwing this aid into Gaza and getting Hamas to take it and control it. If we distribute the humanitarian aid, we can make sure that we are distributing it to children and women and not to the fighters. And then in a week or two, they'll surrender. They'll have no food. They will come with their weapons surrendering and begging for food. And we're not doing that. And this is costing soldiers' lives. And this is because of the Minister of Defense and the Chief of Staff idea that in no way we should control Gaza militarily, which is ridiculous because I don't know of any war where you come and conquer an area and bring down a government that at the end you don't control militarily this place, even if it's for a month, 6 months, a year. There is a process in trying to build a different leadership in Gaza. It's a long-term process. It's not something that will happen in a day. You cannot destroy Hamas and expect that miraculously, the day after, there is a new leadership which loves Israel and wants peace and, will bring prosperity and security. It's completely off thinking like that.
I think Prime Minister Netanyahu responded to Gallant's challenge yesterday. Part of it was that there is something happening in Gaza as far as controlling the aid that is they need to just keep it under wraps for now. Some say it's Mohammed Dahlan, the former PA security chief in Gaza, living in the Emirates, that he has enough connections that whoever controls the food right now controls Gaza, and they're trying to sort of quietly put him in place, can't acknowledge it openly.
Yeah, but even if you do so, you cannot even start talking to anybody in Gaza before you bring down Hamas. There is nobody who will talk to us when they know Hamas might survive this and control Gaza. Hamas will kill them, all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have to prove to the Gazan society that Hamas was completely destroyed, that you are in control now, that you are distributing food, that you are controlling what's going on. And once they get it, and it won't happen in a day, then there will be parts of this society that will say, okay, Israelis are controlling, let's talk to them. Let's see, what we can do. It will take time to get a sense of who we want to talk to. And I think that after so many people that were killed throughout these last 30 years, going back to the same ideas of bringing the Palestinian Authority and, creating again a reality where there is a buildup of terror and incitement and war against Israel, it's unbelievable how people can think like that. How many Israelis need to be killed in order for people to understand that this is wrong?
Yeah.
Cannot play with our lives the way, it's done.
Yes. Just a couple more questions. Israel's going into Rafah now. It's a phased operation, slowly working their way west. How long? They said it will take around 6 weeks. It seems the Gazan displaced people are evacuating the area. How long do you think this will take? And will the IDF then concentrate on Hezbollah on the Lebanese border?
How long it will take, it depends on the amount of forces the IDF uses. They're not attacking with enough forces at the moment. We are operating in Rafah with 2 brigades. It's not, you need like maybe 5, 6 brigades and not 2. It depends on how fiercely Hamas will fight. I mean, this is their last stronghold. So we don't know, are they going to fight to the last bullet? Or when they see IDF attacking from everywhere, they will surrender. We don't know. So it's very hard to predict exactly how much time it will take. And also we have to be very thorough because we have to find our hostages, because we have to find the leadership of Hamas. This is going to be very fierce fighting, and depends how it will be done. Is it going to be step by step, or is it going to be one major attack? There are many things that might affect the way this will look and the time it will take.
Some had already said that in May, June, the IDF would already be an incursion into Lebanon to deal with Hezbollah. And I think that in the north, the residents there who can't go home, they're trying to put pressure on the government themselves to get this over with.
Well, you know, as we said at the beginning, it's amount of physics. It's the amount of forces we have. With the amount of forces we have to finish the job in Rafah first, and then send most of our divisions north, and then we'll see. I mean, it's going to be either a diplomatic solution where Hamas retreats north of the Litani without a war, in order to prevent a war, or war. The Northern Command is completely ready for a full-scale war. They are able to restore security. They know what to do. They need the cabinet and the army to tell them that now it's their turn and they need to attack. If they get this order, they know exactly what to do.
Yeah, some say that Hezbollah has been softened and they've retreated some, but others say they've had plenty of time to prepare and it'll be a tough fight. What do you think?
Hezbollah retreated between 10 to 12 kilometers from the border. The IDF is constantly pushing them back, but it's not enough. Hezbollah is strong, is well organized, but Israel can definitely deal with this and really push them out of South Lebanon. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see when this happens. It cannot happen before we finish with Rafah.
Yeah, I think the Chief of Staff, Herzi Halevi, he said it's going to be a hot summer. He told the troops, so we'll see if it's a long, hot summer for Israel up on the Lebanese border. We want to thank you for your time, General Avivi. I think one last question. You mentioned that Sinwar, if he's in Rafah, he may sneak through the tunnels and escape to Egypt. Do you think he's really someone that would try and escape? It looks like he's retreating, or is he going to take a stand and rather be a martyr than an exile?
Well, getting into the mind of Sinwar is very, very difficult. We don't know. I don't know if he's the martyr kind or he's a coward. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think we'll find out probably soon enough.
All right. We thank you for your time, General Amir Avivi, 35 years as a commander in the IDF, and also the founder and chairman of the Israel Defense and Security Forum, which is trying to shape Israel's security debate, even in the midst of this war. He's on the news here, the news channels, and even foreign media all the time right now, and we just appreciate his expertise and an analysis of where we are. Thank you, Amir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
God bless you. Okay. Thank you for joining us today on the ICEJ webinar series. We hope you enjoyed today's show, got a lot from it, and we want to make sure you join us next week when we have another in our webinar series, Thursdays at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, Israel time. We'll see you then. And at the top of the hour, remember, we have our global prayer gathering every day. We're gathering with thousands of Christians from all over the world and Christian leaders to pray for Israel and the region as they go through this war. So join us then, 4 p.m. Israel time every day for the global prayer gathering coming up at the top of the hour. God bless you from Jerusalem.
Thank you for joining us for this informative webinar. Be sure to subscribe to our social media channels or visit our website at icej.org for upcoming webinars and more ICEJ exclusive content.
Protests all over the world. Here's a live look at the east side where demonstrators are on the move from the Israeli consulate to the UN.
And Fox 5's Lisa Evers joins us. The Israel-Hamas war stoking protests across the U.S. at various college campuses.
We saw posters of Israelis kidnapped by Hamas. finally retaliated over the weekend. Israel's targeting senior Hamas official by launching a bomb at 60 rockets.
That's good. This is good.